But anyway, there's initiations in there that are really powerful, like I am statements and affirmations that you walk through and speak. And they're so powerful that I have to kind of assimilate them, you know, and digest them before I go on to the next one. That's how powerful they are. And it's such a nurturing, amazing experience just to have the Divine Feminine speak to my heart and mentor me, and I feel their presence. Anyway, I'm getting on a tangent on my spiritual pleasure. But anyway, that was an example. Let's see, what else came up as pleasurable? Oh yes, so when it was my turn, we only had 2.5 minutes to share yesterday, so that's kind of not very much time to share, you know, some memories or experiences that were the most highly pleasurable in our life. But I did mention some recent experiences that I feel so honored to have gotten to have, which is I got a lot of pleasure from, you know, an acquaintance of mine who, well, there's been several acquaintances of mine who have really showed up for me during this move, because I'm coming off the 3rd floor walk up, and so there's a lot more carrying and stairs and whatnot, and it's been one of the most intense moves I've ever had to go through, that I've had to break down into bite-sized pieces. So anyway, I've had one in particular, I'll mention, like his loyalty and his willingness to show up for me and really be there for me, I found so pleasurable. I found it very sexy, honestly. It was really beautiful. And he's a younger man, 32, who has really shown up for me. He's my masseur, and he's excellent at that, but you know, he really has been there for me in this move, and I found that so refreshing in this day and age. Then I have another friend who I've gotten rather close with too in this whole process, who also loves helping me and just gets a lot of pleasure from that, and is also really good at massage. And I guess because I didn't have a lot of support growing up, you know, I was kind of like neglected, that when someone really shows up and is supportive and really has my back and shows up, you know, when you're moving, that's not a fun time. I know I don't feel like showing up to help someone move is a very fun thing that I would want to sign up for. So to have them be willing to do that with me has been so beautiful. And so I have found that pleasurable. I also mentioned in my share that, which makes me more aware of like the lost art of caressing and non-sexual touch, which does something for me. I go into bliss, and I go into bliss with massage and any kind of non-sexual touch. I'm just gonna kind of define it as that, because there's a difference between sexual touch and non-sexual touch. And I recently got to experience this with a friend who was like just massaging me and then kind of, you know, caressing me. You know, it might be a light touch or whatever, you know, just kind of stroking my body while we were watching a movie. And I was like, God, I haven't had this in years. You know, it seems like the men in my life I've always kind of gone straight for the sexual touch, and they completely bypass the non-sexual touch, which is, you know, what leads up to sexuality. And I just am realizing how much of that bypassing is happening out there. And in my own experience too, where they're just rushing, like they're so in a hurry just for the destination, that they completely miss out on the journey. And the journey is what's fun for me as a woman and as a romantic. And the thing is I'll just be transparent. By the time that person was done massaging and stroking me stuff throughout that 2-hour movie, it's like I was just putty in their hands. And so if you know, my totem animal is one of them is a white tigress. So I felt like a white tigress that was just purring up a storm. And I was so happy. And that totally prepped me for going into a sexual experience, which he didn't push that because we're just getting to know each other. But I was like, wow, that is so effective, at least for me. Like, I'll be honest, I was totally wet, totally like prepped up, kind of like foreplay, where I would have just eaten it up, you know, because I was just eating it all up. I just loved it. And some of us are rigged that way, and I just am. As a touchy-feely person who has touch as the #1 love language, it goes so far. And if you're a partner of someone who is rigged that way, I'm telling you, if you massage or caress them a little bit every day, whether it's you massage their feet one day, their shoulders the next, cuddle, you know, and caress the next day, if you do a little bit of that every day, boy, that just gets us purring and happy, and it's amazing. Like, that's so satisfying. That would go a long way in my relationship, and that's a very wise thing to do, men and women, when you have a partner who's rigged like that. It's so wise. It's like, that keeps them happy. It does me. So anyway, I was kind of amazed at how, when we even talked about it, he's like, Sheea, you know, you don't really get this all the time. I mean, the way you're built, you'd think that you'd get a lot of this. And I was like, I know, but it just seems like guys get so excited that their brains leave their body and they're just jumping in and they're skipping steps, and I end up just not wanting to deal with it half the time. And I just do without. But I felt so safe with him, and he wasn't, you know, trying to push anything, and I was able to relax, and I could really feel the quality of his touch. You know, it was coming more from his heart. And I said, I know, I don't get it either. And he says, I could just do this for hours. I just love doing this. And because he's rigged the same way I am. And so anyway, it was just interesting to notice. Now, touch is one of the 5 love languages. There's also what they call verbal affirmation. So obviously there's pleasure. That's my #2 one, where if I hear compliments, if I'm hearing any loving words, you know, anything uplifting, any kind of positive feedback, that really does it for me too. And even in the bedroom, I love to be talked to and whispered to and stuff, you know, in a romantic encounter, because that just turns me on, you know, something intellectual even about it that I find sexy if someone knows how to do that. And, you know, sometimes there's role play involved or whatever, but anyway, it's just good to notice these things, because, you know, if you go to the 5lovelanguages.com, you can take a little quiz, find out what percentage you are of each of the 5 love languages and your partner, because you may be loving them the way you want to be loved, but they may, say if they're rigged completely opposite of you, then you at least know, and it's like, oh, they really like acts of service, you know, that's their #1 love language, whereas mine is touch, and here I've been just doing all this touch, and like that doesn't mean as much to them as the acts of service. So anyway, all of them bring pleasure, and there's also gifts. Like, I get a lot of pleasure from giving and receiving gifts, because I grew up in a poor family, so we didn't really get anything except for at Christmas mostly. And I am known as the gift giver. I just love, because it's so exciting for me to receive a gift. You know, it's usually a personal, thought out gift that if someone does it right. And I like to do that. And, you know, for my girlfriends and for my clients, I give them a care package, and I give my girlfriends gifts, because I figure, well, if you don't have a man spoiling you, then let's spoil each other, you know, as girlfriends, and do that for each other. And then there's quality time, which is the last, or 5, the 5th love language. So, you know, a lot of people value having good quality time with their partners. That's what means the most to them. Making memories, it's, you know, really important. So if you have, say, your partner, if that's their #1 love language, and you're never around and you're constantly working, that's not gonna work so well. So anyway, let's see if I have any others I'd like to mention that I haven't yet. Obviously, being in nature, can bring pleasure. Like I did bring up in my share yesterday that, you know, I have these amazing memories of being at Little Beach, which is a famous nude beach in Maui. It always seems to have perfect waves, and I'm able to boogie board naked, and it's so fun. And it brings out the little girl in me where I'm just like playing like I was when I was a kid. And I have a lot of amazing memories there from one of the loves of my life, where we hung out there a lot and we played, and so many good memories. And you know, something about being naked in nature and just free, having the water up against your body and the heat of the sun warming my body. Everyone just being transparent enough to, you know, not be wearing clothes, and all the status and whatnot that connotates. You know, we're all just freshly free and like, this is me, you know, and with all my quirks and, you know, whatever. So anyway, yeah, those are some examples, and maybe you can think of more of things that really bring you pleasure, like sports or you know, movies or whatever it is. But it made me realize we have a lot more pleasure in our lives than we realize, and pleasure doesn't always have to mean sexuality. It can come in so many countless forms. So appreciate it, and you know, every day, all the little things that make a difference for you. Aloha.